I've already talked about hotels versus homestay apps like Airbnb, vrbo, and HomeAway. What about hostels? Let's see if you should stay in a hostel or an Airbnb. I'm here to help you decide. Before you even think about booking a hostel, make sure there's one in your destination. Hostels are primarily in bigger cities. If you're going to like a national park or a smaller city, there may not even be one. So before you even consider it, make sure there's actually one to consider. When comparing Airbnbs and hostels, I'm going to look at 5 things: price, group size, amenities, social, and privacy. First up, price. I put this first because chances are you book somewhere depending on the price. I know that's what I do. The cheaper the better, as long as I feel comfortable in staying at that place. There are some good Airbnbs you can find fairly cheap. And if you want to get cheaper on Airbnb, if you choose a place that the renter lives there and is just renting out a single room, that's even cheaper than renting out a private room. But hostels are going to be cheaper. Usually hostels are around $30 depending on the room type and how many roommates you have and where it is. Whereas Airbnbs usually go for about $100. And that's usually for a private place. It gets cheaper if you just rent out a room. If your biggest concern is just saving money, look into a hostel because that's going to save you the most money. Second is group size. Now if you have a bigger group or a really big group, or even if you have kids, go with an Airbnb because you're going to have more space, more privacy for just you and your group, and you're all going to be together. In hostels, there's no guarantee you'll all be together. Yes, if you all book at the same time, usually you get put together. But if there's more people than can fit in one single room, there's going to be some odd people out. And there's also no common area that's private for you guys to all hang out. There are public ones that you can do, but there's going to be other people there because there's other guests at the hostel. But if you have a smaller group, then look into a hostel. Especially if it's like 2 or 3 of you, chances are you'll all get into the same room and there's more than enough space for just the 2 or 3 of you. I consider these 2 the most important things to focus on when deciding where to stay, but there are still more. I still have 3 more points. So number 3 is amenities. Airbnbs usually provide towels and hair dryers, sometimes washing machines, and usually shampoo and conditioner too, depending on the place. And they have kitchens or kitchenettes and somewhere so you can actually store food and make food. So then you don't have to spend money on breakfast. Instead, you can buy some food and make a breakfast. When you stay in the hostel, usually you need to bring your own towels, shampoo and conditioner, and the likes. I have stayed at a hostel that if you ask, you can get a towel, but that's not common and it just depends on the place. And sometimes with hostels you can buy shampoo and conditioner, but then you have to buy it and it's basically like bringing it. I also mentioned kitchens. Hostels usually will have a public kitchen, but usually that's just a sink and a microwave. So you can't really do any cooking. The one nice thing about hostels is they have staff on property, so if something goes wrong, you have someone there to help you right away. Whereas with Airbnbs, it's not always that you have the owner right there with you. Number 4 is the social aspect. This may seem kind of weird when talking about somewhere to stay, but I'll tell you why. At hostels, you can meet so many different people. There are people just like you traveling and wanting somewhere cheaper to stay. You can do this in the public common area or in your room with the people you stay with. And even sometimes hostels will organize like events and activities that you guys can do so guests can meet each other. Airbnbs don't really have this because usually you stay in a private place. Obviously, if you stay with someone, you can get to know that person, but that's not really common, especially not in the way that it's common in hostels. If you're not on your trip to meet people, then maybe this is a downside for you, but I consider it an upside because it's fun meeting different people from around the world. This leads me into my 5th and final focus point: privacy. Privacy is something I'm sure we all value a great deal. And in hostels, there's not as much privacy. You share a bathroom, you share a room, you share a common area, you share all of that, which for some people is fine because it's not for very long and it's doable. But if you're like me and would rather have your own space, then look into an Airbnb. Obviously, hostels do all that they can to ensure the safety of their guests because people are staying with other strangers. But it's just something to consider because you don't have your own bathroom and shower. You have to share. And the hostels do the best they can to keep it clean and cleansy, but there's only so much you can do. Personally, I always look at an Airbnb first, but if I can't find one that suits my needs, then I'll look into a hostel. I've had great experiences with both, so either way you can't go wrong. I can't make the decision for you, but I hope I helped you find clarity in your decision. But if you're still a little confused, maybe check out my video on Airbnbs versus hotels. If you liked what you saw today, hit that like button, consider subscribing, and enjoy your trip.